Wow, I'm like, ooh, this is right in my face. Hi, I'm Amy. This is House of Nash Eats, and today we are making blueberry muffins. Okay, let's get started making our blueberry muffins. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add our sugar and some melted butter. And this is just salted butter that I melted, and oil. And the reason I like to use a combination of butter and oil is because the oil helps keep the muffins moist and the butter gives it flavor. You could really use one or the other, but you sacrifice one of the different qualities, which is why I use both of the ingredients. So then I'm just going to use a whisk to whisk those together. And then once that's combined, we're going to go ahead and add 2 whole eggs. And I've got 3/4 of a cup of whole milk. You could use 2% low fat. Whole milk will give you better, richer results to your muffins, but you can really use whatever you have on hand. And then I've got a little bit of vanilla here. And I'll leave a link below to the printable recipe that you can print out and follow along. And I'm just going to whisk those all together too. All right, so then to our wet ingredients, we're going to add our dry ingredients. So I've got some all-purpose flour that I've already measured out, and I'm going to add that with my baking powder. And you could whisk these together beforehand. I find that if I just sprinkle it across the top, I don't end up with lumps of it. And that's the real reason for whisking, is to make sure your baking powder gets evenly dispersed. Because with muffins, you don't want to overmix your batter. So now I'm just going to use a spoon and do this by hand, where I stir it all together. And it's totally okay for it to be a little bit lumpy. That's really fine with muffin batter. If you want really light, tender muffins, you don't want to overdo the mixing. That's why you would never want to mix this with like a hand mixer. Okay, and once that starts to come together and there are no streaks of flour remaining, we're going to go ahead and add our blueberries. So I've got 2 cups of fresh blueberries here. You could absolutely use frozen blueberries. If you do, I would recommend first tossing them with about a tablespoon of flour to coat them. That will prevent them from sinking down to the bottom of your muffins. If you've got fresh blueberries on hand, you don't really need to do that. You could also hold a few of them in reserve to sprinkle on top of your muffins if you want to make sure you've got blueberries right on top. I'm just going to dump them all in. And then you just fold them into your batter or stir them in. Again, if you're using frozen blueberries, be careful not to overmix your batter at this point, especially because they'll streak the batter and like dye it purple. If you have fresh blueberries, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so now you can prepare your muffin tin by either adding paper liners, or I'm just going to spray it with some baking spray that has a little flour in it. And this is just going to prevent the muffins from sticking to the pan. So now I've got my handy dandy scoop that I use all the time to make sure I get evenly sized muffins or cookies or whatever I'm using. Cookie scoops are one of my favorite kitchen tools. So I'm just going to use this to scoop my batter and try to fill each cup about 3/4 of the way full. You don't want to overfill your muffins or they won't actually have as nice of domes on the top. If you fill it too full, they'll like spread out and get a little more flat. If you fill them just 3/4 of the way, they'll rise up a little bit better. And this recipe should give you about 12 to 14 muffins. You could totally use like a jumbo muffin pan and do like 6 to 8 muffins, I think, is what you get out of this. The bake time will be a little bit different, but if you really want to like have those giant, impressive sized blueberry muffins, go for it. This recipe works great. You could totally just bake your muffins just like this, but I really love streusel on my muffins, so I'm gonna make a quick and easy streusel. Some other ideas is you could just sprinkle the tops of these with some coarse demerara sugar, coarse sugar, you know, the big like granules of sugar, for like some extra crunch. You could add sliced almonds on top, whatever you want to finish off your blueberry muffins. But to make my super easy streusel, we're just going to add some melted butter, some granulated sugar, and some flour, just a pinch of salt. And I'm just going to use a fork to stir those until they're combined and kind of crumbly and sandy texture. And then I'll sprinkle this on top of the muffins for that delicious, like bakery style streusel. Okay, now I'm just going to use about a tablespoon of streusel on each of the muffins and just put it right on top, and that will bake up beautiful and delicious. I'll leave a few of these plain because I have a daughter that doesn't like the streusel as much. She likes her blueberry muffins plain. I like them with streusel, and so does my husband, so we're going to do some of them each way. Okay, now I'm going to pop these in the oven for 22 to 25 minutes until they're browning around the edges. They've got a nice dome, and you can test them by inserting a toothpick in the center and seeing if it comes out pretty much clean, or you can bounce your finger off the top. And if there's an indentation, they need to go a little bit longer. If it bounces right back, they're done. Okay, so I've got our blueberry muffins fresh out of the oven. They're nice and hot with like a golden brown color just around the edges, and these just need to cool down a little bit. Let them cool, because if you bite into them and the blueberries are hot, they will burn your mouth. Okay, so now I'm going to taste one of these muffins. So they've had a chance to cool down a little bit, and you can see they are loaded with blueberries. It's plenty of blueberries inside. Okay. And I've got one of the streusel ones. These have such a great, like, soft crumb to them from not overmixing them. They're perfectly moist, not dry, loaded with juicy blueberries. These are so good. They freeze great, so you can have them on hand for like easy breakfasts. You could add a little bit of lemon zest if you want a lemon blueberry flavor. You could glaze them. These are my go-to blueberry muffin recipe, and I hope you guys love them. I hope you guys love this video and that you really enjoy making these muffins at home. Be sure to like and subscribe to my channel for more great videos just like this.